joining us today. So I'm going to take you through the CDBG program and hopefully give you a few pointers with things. And as Nick said, we'll answer questions towards the end. So again, just a little background. Again, this is Charlie Filling, Program Director with the State Office of Community Renewal, based here in Albany. And we administer the Community Development Block Grant Program, multiple activities that we'll go through today. But the highlight of this, again, will be the infrastructure activities that we do fund. So the next slide, Nick. So just as we go through this, again, the Homes and Community Renewal, that's where we are officially located, is one of the largest housing agencies in the country. It's a consolidated affordable housing agency. And it's made up of the Affordable Housing Corporation, the Division of Housing and Community Renewal, the Housing Finance Agency, and the State of New York Mortgage Agency, and the Housing Trust Fund Corporation. It's an office within New York State Homes and Community Renewal. The Office of Community Renewal administers a variety of state and federal resources to empower local governments and not-for-profit organizations to build on the unique and historic character of New York communities through housing, infrastructure, and job-creating activities. So the next slide. There's two general development areas. There's the Office of Community Renewal and the Office of Finance Development, and that's primarily responsible for direct award and oversight of multifamily rental properties and projects. Today we're going to talk about the grant programs through Homes and Community Renewal, again, specifically through OCR. And I'm not sure, Nick, if you're making this available, but we can make the slideshow available for folks on the back end. And the next slide.
Definitely, we will. Mm-hmm.
So this is the large variety of everything that we're able to fund. One of the neat things about CDBG is it's a very, very flexible program. Covers a lot of different areas. It's a broad description of potential eligible activities available through the funding sources that we're going to go through today. Technical assistance is always in planning is available through New York State Community Development Block Grant Program. And then also within our, talking about CDBG today, but just for what it's worth, the New York Main Street program does also offer technical assistance. And the next slide. So the way that we're structured is the CDBG program works directly with what we call local units of government, cities, towns, villages, and counties. We make the award to the municipality, and then they act as, or can act as a pass-through. They can work with a not-for-profit, like a local housing agency. We work with LDCs, IDAs, and so on. They can act as a subrecipient to the municipality, and then those funds are then dispersed down to the local level to undertake the various activities that were proposed in the funding application. And so the next slide. So we'll go through a little bit of the federal and state overview for you. There's two specific programs that are administered here. Again, the New York State Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Program. These are both federally funded, and the funding does come directly from HUD to the state. And the next slide. And then at the state level funding, these are all the various sources of funding available through state resources. Again, this is all administered by the Office of Community Renewal, everything from the Affordable Housing Corporation, the access programs, the mobile manufactured housing programs. There's a rehab program, Restore, which is a program of emergency repair for the elderly, and again, just rounding out the group, the New York Main Street program. And the next slide. We'll just show you over the last, this is from 2021 to 2024, so you can go right to the next slide, Nick. This is how the funding worked out for municipalities across the state. You can see we've color-coded things, but this is by the eligible regions. You'll notice that New York City is not listed here. We do not participate with anything in New York City. They are completely entitlement. There are a few municipalities in Long Island, but since 2021 to 2024, we've not funded anything in Long Island. So these are the other REDC regions upstate. And you can see the range in total awards from just under $15 million for Central New York up to $41 million for the Southern Tier. Again, the Central New York is, the reality is there's 4 counties, I think, in the Central New York region, and Onondaga County is one of those, and Onondaga County does not participate in the state CDBG program. So again, just to give you an idea of how the funds are dispersed, and then we go right to the next slide, Nick. This will give you an idea. So out of all those awards that we've made, 91 of the total awards over the last several years were made specifically for infrastructure. So drinking water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater management projects. And the next slide. So I just want to give a few examples of projects that we have funded here over the last few years. Starting with the community planning, because this is oftentimes a starting point for municipalities, but I'll give you an idea of the project type and how the project was actually determined to be eligible for assistance. So in this case, the city of Gloversville in Fulton County, 14,500 residents. The city has a population of 62.9% of the residents are determined to be low and moderate income by HUD. In this particular case, so this is a senior center. Seniors are presumed to benefit class under HUD. So if it's a direct benefit to the seniors, so in this case, the senior center, a congregate meal site, senior transportation, something like that, would automatically qualify. You don't have to meet that high 51% threshold in this case. Just as an example, if the city could have also qualified under the LMA, which is the low and moderate area income benefit, again, with 63% low income. If this had been a community center instead of a senior center, the project would have been funded or would have qualified as well for that. But again, in this case, we funded the city for $50,000. It was the engineering study of the building. The city contributed $3,000 in local funds. We'll talk about this. We're going to come back to this again in a few slides. So the next slide, Nick. So the village of Newark, this is in Wayne County. The village has a population of just under 8,500 residents, and again, 63.3% are low and moderate income. So the village qualified for eligibility on this LMA, low and moderate area income benefit. That's how they qualified for this project. The village was awarded $1 million in CDBG funds, and to replace the culvert, you can see it's almost two, before and after here, the photos are almost taken from the same identical spot. So you see the results of the work. Again, total project cost was $1,037,000, and the village contributed the funds over the $1 million. So we go right to the next slide. This was the Village of Scotia. Again, this is an accessibility modification. This is another example of what we call LNC, limited clientele. This is how the project met national objective compliance. The removal of architectural barriers, so building automatic door openers, ramps, lifts, elevators, renovating existing bathrooms to make them accessible. This is all considered to be removal of architectural barriers. Typically, buildings for the general conduct of government are not eligible, but in this case, if it's an existing building that's being renovated and the activity includes accessibility modifications, that project would qualify in that case under CDBG, and that's what we did here. Total project cost was $5 million, and the village had $4 million in other funds and was awarded $1 million to make the the renovations to the building, which it's going to include new accessible entrances, new restrooms, and then new accessible modifications throughout the village clerk's office. So the next slide, Nick. So we created or made a new activity. This falls under housing rehab, and what we're calling this specifically is infrastructure in support of existing housing. So this is Pet Up Guards. It's a 64-unit housing complex in Fulton County. The project qualified for assistance because all 64 units, this is a subsidized apartment complex. All of the residents were determined to be low and moderate income. Total project cost is $778,000, and the work involved the decommissioning of an existing septic system that was on site and connecting to the public sewer system. Some other renovations were required, and we also paid for the hookup fee for the apartment complex to the public system locally. So the next slide. One of the other things we do is also housing rehab. This is typically the six and mortar kind of rehab that you typically think of. And again, you can see the before and after here. We did windows, siding, doors, electric. A lot of this, when we do the housing rehab, you may not necessarily see the improvements. There are things that we do internally. You know, new wiring system, you're not going to see insulation, you're not going to see. But again, this is not just cosmetic. These are major components. We're looking at everything from the foundation, the structure of the house, the heating system, the electric, the roof. That's what we want to make sure that the building needs to be up to code and address any code violations that there may have been on site. So keep going here. We'll go to the next slide. Another activity that we fund is imminent threat funding. This is typically in response to a natural disaster. It can be a fire, a flood, a landslide. Those are typically things that we've encountered. In this case, the village of Sharon Springs, which is out in Schoharie County, small village of 600 residents, 71% low and moderate income. The village experienced a catastrophic failure of one of the old hotels. Now, the building had unfortunately been empty for several years, but during a major thunderstorm I think this was 2017, one of the older hotels in the village collapsed during the thunderstorm. So again, we came in and assisted the village with the cleanup. And next slide, Nick. So we also do microenterprise. So microenterprise is 5 or fewer employees at the time of assistance. Doesn't keep you the employment base of 5. It's at the time you apply, you've got 5 or fewer employees, including the owners. So hopefully the business can grow. But again, this was up in Lewis County. This was the tax shack. Total project cost was $33,000. The owner qualified. Again, there's another national objective here. It's called LMCMC. Which in this case is the business owner qualified as being low income, so there was not necessary to create jobs in this case because the owner qualified as being income eligible. The Lewis County IDA provided a bridge loan to the owner. The maximum assistance under CDBG is $30,000. Total project cost was $33,000. Hence the need for the bridge loan from the IDA. So the next slide. And I apologize, I think we got this a little out of order, Nick. Sorry about that. We should have run up above, but we'll keep going. So again, these are the infrastructure awards by region. So if we just go back one, Nick. Yep, thanks. So these are the infrastructure awards that, again, the slide that we went through earlier before we get to the examples. This is kind of the distribution of those 91 infrastructure projects. This is how this filters out. again, 3.6 million in the central New York, up to 18 million in the southern tier, and 20 million in the Finger Lakes. So the next slide. And then overall, this is a overall, kind of went through the larger list of all the state and federal funding, but this is the awards that we made in 2024. A total of 209 awards and total funding assistance statewide of $175 million. And so we'll just keep going here, the next slide. We'll go through the CDBG program summary next, and just it's a year to the celebration, but the CDBG program officially turned 50 in 2024. This was created in 1974 at the federal level. There's a conglomeration of older urban development action grants and older programs from the 60s, and Congress brought all these various programs together and created the Community Development Block Grant Program, and that's where we are today, 50 years later. So the next slide. So we received an annual allocation from HUD for 2025. It's around $47.5 million. One of our objectives is to demonstrate to HUD at the end of our contract term that at least 70% of it went correctly to assist persons that are low and moderate income. Remember, CDBG is a program designed to assist low and moderate income persons, households, low-income job creation, and again, low-income benefit to the area when the municipality meets that 51% low and moderate income threshold. And some of the things that we must do, and we'll touch on this a few times, again, is that there's benefit to low and moderate income persons. It has to aid in the elimination of slumps and blights. Again, the Internet Threat Program, oftentimes that's how those projects qualify, is under the elimination of slumps and blight. And then must also, or can also meet an urgent community development need, more typical where there's like a flood or landslide, and we can address community development needs through that urgent need. So the next slide. So we talked about a few of these. This is kind of give you an idea of how things filter out here. So again, the housing rehab, the national objective here is the LMH, low and moderate income households. The public infrastructure community facility projects, this is typically LMA. It can be also the LMC, the limited clientele that we touched on. And if it's for job creation, then it would be LMJ. And again, the small business micro enterprise we touched on the micro a few slides ago. But these are largely going to qualify for assistance under the LMJ, which means that jobs are being created and made available to persons that are low and moderate income. What we mean by that is the job that's being created is somebody that can come in and basically take the job with nothing more than a high school degree. There's no special training or certification that's required to take the job. There can be on-the-job training, but at the time this job is offered, can't have any special requirements, and so that's the LMJ criteria. That is how that's met. So we'll just keep moving along here. We'll get into the public infrastructure. Again, this is a broad category. It's public and private water systems. So everything is covered from point source right through the distribution. And if you include the housing side of the program, it's literally right through the entire plumbing system through the house. Everything is potentially eligible for assistance. We also have the public and private sanitary sewer systems. Again, same thing, is everything from the collection back through the treatment. That is completely eligible, and both of these offer lateral connections. This can be offered as an ancillary activity, and that's everything from the curb stop to the house and any internal plumbing modifications that might be required. And when we're talking direct assistance, which in this case the lateral would be a direct assistance to the individual household, that household has to be determined to be low and moderate income in order to be eligible for the assistance. We also talked about the infrastructure and support of existing housing. You can do this as an ancillary activity to a larger project through one of these activities, or you can also do this through our housing program as a standalone activity and just apply for lateral only through the housing side of the program. Businesses, commercial, industrial, and government buildings are not eligible for the lateral connection assistance in this case. And we'll just keep going. We're moving along. Again, the infrastructure up. We went a little bit too far there, Nick. Should the infrastructure and support of existing housing should be next?
Hold on one second, Charlie.
Yep. Yep, right there.
There you go.
Yep, thanks.
Mhm.
Again, the infrastructure and support of existing housing. This is intended to be get you to think about working inside a manufactured housing park, for example. We consider this to be a housing-related activity, and again, we can go in and do public and private systems. The funding goes through the municipality. If you're working with the private owner of the park, then there's an agreement in place between the municipality that receives the funding and the owner for the funds. Again, we can go in and do the parks, the water, the sewer, the gas, the electric, everything can be included in it under the infrastructure and support of existing housing. We're also including the home program under this. They can also sometimes assist with this. They can also do some minor repairs to units within the park, but they can also assist with replacement of the units within the park. CDBG does not do replacements anymore for the manufactured housing units. That is through the main home program or through the MMHR, the Manufactured Mobile Housing Replacement Program. And next slide. So we offer economic development. We touched on this a little bit. We recognize in your smaller communities must have an economy that encourages business development and promotes jobs for low and moderate income persons. Through the ED program, OCR provides grants to communities that will wish to sponsor economic development activities that create or retain jobs for low and moderate income persons. Again, some of the activities that we can do under this is the acquisition of real property, financing of machinery, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, building construction and renovation, working capital, inventory, and employee training expenses. For standalone single business projects, the maximum award amount is $750,000. There's a minimum of $100,000, and CDBG can fund up to 40% of the total project cost. Projects must result in the creation or retention of at least one permanent full-time equivalent job for every $15,000 in CDBG assistance. And businesses with 25 employees or fewer can request up to $25,000 per job, not to exceed $100,000. Standalone applications are allowed for this, and these are accepted on an overrun basis through the CFA portal. And the next slide, Nick. So community planning funding, again, a lot of different things that we can do on this. Since we're talking about infrastructure today, this is primarily intended to make you aware that this is, we can assist you with preliminary engineering, water and sewer, stormwater projects to get you started. You can mix and match the funding if you've got other sources of funds, either through EFC or USDA Rural Development or another source. You can leverage those dollars with the CDBG. The funds can be used to facilitate the retention of outside experts, consultants to participate in communities planning committee identify vulnerabilities in damaged assets and can assess the needs of the community. You can retain consultants and complete studies to identify these vulnerabilities. The purpose behind this activity is to allow community to begin the long-term process of implementing community development. It's anticipated that this preliminary step will result in a full CDBG application for infrastructure, economic development, or housing. The community does not need to be 51% low and moderate income, but the final report upon implementation will need to demonstrate its benefit to low and moderate income persons. And next slide. So we'll talk to you about the NOFA, the Notice of Funding Availability. This has been sent to the state register. It is being published. I believe it just was published last Wednesday, or it could be this Wednesday. That's actually going to be in the paper. This is going to provide you specific guidance on state and federal sources, eligible activities, in the application submission deadlines. And then following the release of the NOFA, again, the CFA officially opened up last Monday, May 19th. So the RFA, the request for applications under the CFA, is now open. So the public infrastructure, the public and private drinking water systems, the public and private sewer systems, the stormwater management, those are now open. Those are through the competitive process. Again, the CFA opened up May 19th and is closing July 31st. The other activities, including community facilities, the planning, microenterprise, the small business assistance, those are all open rounds. Those applications are available at this point through October 31st of this year. Next slide, Nick. So these are just a few available resources that you have. The HUD Exchange. This is for CDBG and home only. So you do have to sign up. If you want to use the HUD Exchange, you do have to sign up for it, but it is a great tool. You get a lot of great resources and notifications from HUD, and it also offers a lot of training opportunities to you. There's CPD or community planning development notices that you'll get. There's the CPD, the Community Planning Development Income Calculator. So you're doing surveys or something that can help you get through the process of determining eligibility. There are multiple toolkits available through the HUD Exchange. And then technical assistance is available through the toolkit and also directly through OCR at any time. And that is our last slide. The last slide is just our contact information. And I guess we open it for questions now.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Stop.